Life often confronts us with moments that feel like disruption, disorientation, or even rejection. But in truth, these moments are rarely punishment. They are preparation. Transition itself can feel heavy. It can feel like something has been stripped away from you, like the ground beneath your feet is shifting without warning. In those moments, the mind begins to whisper questions. Why me? Why now? What did I do wrong? But if you dare to look beyond the discomfort, if you dare to trust the hand of God working in ways unseen, you will realize that transition is never meant to destroy you. It is meant to develop you. Every person who has ever walked in purposes had to first walk through a season of preparation, disguised as transition. Think of the seed in the ground. When it is planted, the dirt covers it. The darkness surrounds it. To an outside observer, it looks as if the seed has been buried, as if it has been hidden away and forgotten. But the truth is that seed is not being buried, it is being planted. The soil is not its coffin, it is its incubator. What feels like the end is actually the beginning of something new. Transition is the soil in which purpose begins to germinate. In the middle of transition, human nature pushes us to complain. We ask why God closed that door, why he removed that person, why he allowed the job to end, why the opportunity vanished right when we thought we were ready. What we cannot see is that God knows the seasons of our lives better than we do. He knows when the fruit is ripe and when it is still too green. He knows what the storm would do if he allowed you to step out too soon. Transition is not punishment. It is God's mercy, his protection, his way of preparing you for something greater than what you had in mind. Imagine the Israelites walking through the wilderness after leaving Egypt. To them, it felt like punishment, a stripping away of everything they knew. They complained about the manna. They longed for the familiarity of bondage because freedom wrapped in uncertainty felt harder than slavery wrapped in routine. But the wilderness was not punishment. It was preparation. It was the training ground for a nation that would carry the promise of God into a new land. It was a season designed to strip away their dependence on Egypt and teach them to depend on God. That same principle applies to you. Your wilderness, your in-between place, your transition. It is a teacher, not a tormentor. When doors close, it does not mean God is rejecting you. Sometimes he has to close what you think is an opportunity because it would crush you if you stepped into it too soon. We pray for open doors, but sometimes the greatest blessing is a closed one. A closed door can save you from walking into a place you are not ready for. A delay can protect you from a disaster. What feels like punishment is really the love of God manifesting in a way that frustrates you in the moment but strengthens you for the future. Transition is the place where faith is stretched and trust is tested. You cannot claim to have faith if you never endure a season that demands it. Faith is not proven on the mountaintop. It is proven in the valley. Faith is not proven when the answers are clear. It is proven when all you have is questions. Faith is not proven when everything goes your way. It is proven when nothing seems to work and you still hold on. Transition pushes you into that place where your faith either breaks or builds, and God allows it because He knows that on the other side of it, you will emerge stronger than you went in. Think about how a diamond is formed. It is not born in comfort, it is born under extreme pressure. Gold is purified in fire. Muscles are built by resistance. Every force that feels like opposition is actually orchestrating growth. That is what transition is. It is God applying pressure, not to break you, but to shape you. It is God allowing resistance, not to defeat you, but to develop you. What you call a setback, God calls a setup. What you call punishment, God calls preparation. Some of you are praying for God to remove the very thing He is using to prepare you. You are asking Him to end the season that is shaping you for the next one. You are asking Him to make it easy when He is using the difficulty to make you strong. Transition does not feel good, but it works for your good. It takes you from who you are to who you are meant to be. It stretches your vision. It humbles your pride. It uproots your dependence on people, and it forces you to trust God like never before. When you look back over your life, you will recognize that the greatest lessons, the deepest wisdom, and the strongest resilience were never birthed in moments of comfort. They were born in seasons of transition. They were forged in the fire of uncertainty. They were carved out of the discomfort of change. And though at the time you thought you were being punished, when you realize you were being prepared. Preparation never feels pleasant, but it is always purposeful. Transition is the bridge between promise and fulfillment. It is the furnace that burns off the impurities so that the pure gold of your character can shine. It is the storm that strengthens your roots so that when the real winds come, you will not be moved. Transition is God's classroom, and though the lessons feel hard, the graduation leads to destiny. You may not see it right now, but every tear you cry in transition is watering the soil of your future. Every prayer you pray in the hallway between doors is shaping your spiritual stamina. Every moment of waiting is sharpening your discernment. You are not being punished. You are being positioned. You are not being buried. You are being planted. You are not being abandoned. You are being advanced. God's timing is perfect, even when it feels delayed. That is a truth that is easy to repeat but hard to live, because when you are praying and nothing seems to happen, when you are sowing seeds and no harvest is in sight, when you are knocking and the door does not open, you begin to wonder if heaven has gone silent. You begin to ask yourself if maybe God forgot about you, if maybe He overlooked you, if maybe His promises don't apply to you. But the reality is God never works according to human clocks. He is not bound by our schedules. He is not rushed by our impatience, and He is never late. He is always on time, even when that timing frustrates your expectations. Think about how often we measure life by calendars and deadlines. We say, by this age, I should have accomplished this. By this time, I should be in that position. By this season, I should have reached that goal. And when it doesn't happen, when the timeline does not unfold according to our plan, we label it as delay. But in God's economy, delay is not denial. Delay is often divine protection. Delay is often the space between where you are and where you are being prepared to be. Delay is the ground on which faith matures. God's timing is never dictated by what you think you are ready for. It is determined by what He knows you are ready for. Consider the story of Lazarus. Mary and Martha sent word to Jesus that their brother was sick. They expected Him to come right away to heal him quickly, to prevent death from touching their household. But Jesus did not come when they wanted Him. He waited. He delayed His arrival. To them, that delay was devastating. Their brother died. Their faith was shaken. Their hope seemed buried. Yet when Jesus finally came, it was not too late. His timing was perfect because the delay set the stage for a greater miracle. If He had come when they asked, Lazarus would have been healed. But because He came on His own timing, Lazarus was resurrected. Sometimes the delay you hate is the very thing God is using to perform a greater work in your life. When God delays, He is not ignoring you. He is setting the scene, aligning the pieces, and ensuring that when the breakthrough comes, it will be undeniable that it was His hand, not yours, that made it happen. Human timing is fragile. We want everything instantly. We want quick results, fast promotions, immediate recognition. But God's timing is eternal. He is weaving your life into a bigger picture, connecting your story to generations, orchestrating things you cannot see. What you call a delay is often God saying, wait, because I am preparing something greater than what you asked for. But Abraham was promised a son, but the promise took years to manifest. Every passing year must have felt like another delay, another disappointment. He tried to fix it on his own and created Ishmael, but that was not God's plan. God waited until Abraham and Sarah were beyond human ability, until their bodies could no longer rely on natural strength. Why? Because when Isaac was born, no one could say it was by human power. Everyone would know it was God's promise fulfilled in God's time. That is what happens when God delays. He makes sure that the glory cannot be shared with anyone else. We live in a world of instant gratification where waiting feels like wasting. But in God's kingdom, waiting is working. Waiting seasons are not empty. They are seasons where God develops patience, character, humility, and trust. While you are waiting, God is not sitting still. He is moving in ways you cannot perceive. He is shifting hearts, opening doors, closing traps, protecting you from unseen dangers. And when the time is right, what seemed like a delay will reveal itself as divine precision. Joseph had dreams of greatness as a young man, but instead of being elevated, he was thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, and locked in a prison. To him, it must have looked like years of delay, years of missed opportunities, years of being forgotten. But God's timing was perfect. At the exact right moment, Pharaoh had a dream, and Joseph was called out of the prison to interpret it. Overnight, he went from prisoner to prime minister. The years of waiting were not wasted. They were preparation. If Joseph had been released any sooner, the palace would not have been ready for him. The delay was not a punishment. It was positioning. When you feel like you are waiting too long, remember that God is not just working on your blessing, He is working on you. If the blessing comes too early, it can crush you instead of elevate you. If the opportunity opens before you are ready, it can overwhelm you instead of grow you. God's timing ensures that when the door opens, you have the maturity, the wisdom, and the strength to walk through it. He loves you too much to give you something prematurely. Even Jesus demonstrated the perfection of God's timing. There are moments when people tried to seize Him, to crown Him, to push Him into destiny prematurely, but He always said, my time has not yet come. He knew that rushing ahead of God's timing would derail the mission. It was only when the appointed hour arrived that He laid down His life and fulfilled the greatest work of redemption. If the Son of God Himself submitted to divine timing, how much more should we trust that God's timing in our lives is flawless? The tension of waiting is real. It stretches you, it frustrates you, it exposes your desire to control. But that is the very purpose of waiting, to remind you that your life is not in your hands, it is in God's. Waiting teaches surrender. Waiting teaches dependence. Waiting teaches that God's clock does not tick like yours. And when you finally see the manifestation of what you've been praying for, you will realize it came at the exact right moment. Not too early, not too late, but right on time. The reason God's timing is perfect is because He sees what you cannot. You see the moment, He sees eternity. You see the immediate need, He sees the bigger purpose. You see the short-term struggle, He sees the long-term blessing. That is why you cannot compare His timing to your expectation. His ways are higher, His perspective is greater, His plan is wider. And every so-called delay is a piece of that greater plan unfolding in your life. Waiting seasons are training seasons. Most people despise waiting because it feels like nothing is happening, like time is being wasted, like progress has been frozen. But in God's design, waiting is never empty. Waiting is a classroom where lessons are taught that cannot be learned in motion. It is in the waiting that patience is cultivated, discipline is sharpened, faith is stretched, and trust is fortified. The waiting season is not about inactivity, it is about inner activity. It is about God doing the deep work within you so that when the door finally opens, you are prepared to handle what is on the other side. When a farmer plants seeds, there is always a waiting period between sowing and reaping. The seed does not sprout overnight. The soil must do its work. The rains must fall. The roots must grow deep before the harvest can be seen. To the untrained eye, it looks like nothing is happening beneath the surface. But something is happening, something essential, something unseen, something critical to the seed's survival. That is exactly what happens in your life during waiting seasons. God allows you to sit in a place that feels silent because He is growing roots under the surface. He is anchoring your character, stabilizing your heart, and strengthening your faith so that when the blessing arrives, you are not uprooted by it. We live in a generation that hates waiting. We want everything quick, fast, and in a hurry. But the truth is, premature blessing can become heavy burdens. If God gave you what you asked for before you were ready, the very thing you prayed for would destroy you. A promotion too early can crush you. A relationship before maturity can break you. A platform without foundation can topple you. That is why waiting seasons are training seasons. They are designed to equip you with the resilience, wisdom, and humility necessary to carry the weight of what you have been asking for. Think of David, anointed as king while still a shepherd boy. He could have stepped into the throne immediately, but God did not allow it. Instead, he sent David back to the fields to tend sheep. He sent him into caves to hide from Saul. He sent him into battles to fight enemies. For years, David waited, not because God forgot his promise, but because David needed training. He needed to learn how to lead, not just with a crown, but with character. He needed to learn how to fight battles with courage, how to shepherd people with compassion, how to trust God when life did not make sense. The throne was prepared for David, but David had to be prepared for the throne. Waiting seasons also expose what is really in our hearts. When everything is delayed, when the promise seems distant, when prayers feel unanswered, what comes out of us reveals the truth of our character. Do we complain like the Israelites in the wilderness, longing for Egypt instead of trusting God for Canaan? Or do we remain faithful like Joseph in prison, using every circumstance as an opportunity to glorify God? Waiting seasons test the posture of your heart. They reveal whether your faith is built on circumstances or on conviction. The wilderness is often God's chosen training ground. Israel wandered for 40 years, not because God could not bring them into the promised land sooner, but because they were not ready. They had to be trained. They had to unlearn the mentality of slaves and embrace the identity of a chosen nation. The wilderness was their school. Manna became their daily lesson in trust. The cloud and fire became their daily lesson in guidance. The waiting season prepared them for the weight of the promise. Without the wilderness, they would have reached the land prematurely, only still to fail once they got there. Waiting trains you to depend on God instead of yourself. In moments of waiting, you cannot rely on your own timeline, your own strength, or your own wisdom. You are forced to lean on God's word, to trust his plan, and to surrender your control. That surrender is part of the training. It purifies your motives. It strips away your pride. It humbles you so that when the blessing comes, you know it was God who brought you through. Even Jesus experienced a waiting season before stepping into his ministry. He spent 30 years in obscurity before 3 years of public ministry. Why? Because he was being prepared. He was being trained through obedience, through humility, through growth in wisdom and stature. And before he began his ministry, he was led into the wilderness for 40 days. That season of testing and waiting was not wasted. It was training for the battles he would face, the temptations he would endure, and the mission he was sent to accomplish. Waiting also develops endurance. Endurance cannot be taught in comfort. It is forged through time, through trials, through seasons where nothing changes on the outside, but everything is changing on the inside. Endurance makes you unshackable. Endurance gives you staying power. Endurance allows you to stand strong when others give up. That kind of strength is not given overnight. It is cultivated in waiting. It is cultivated when you keep praying even when the answer is slow to come. It is cultivated when you keep serving even when recognition is absent. It is cultivated when you keep believing even when the evidence says otherwise. Many people quit in waiting seasons because they confuse waiting with wasting. But the truth is, waiting is working. Waiting seasons build spiritual muscles that cannot be developed any other way. They build patience, perseverance, and prayerfulness. They give you a depth of character that success alone cannot give. They teach you how to value what you receive because you did not get it cheaply or quickly. The longer the waiting, the greater the appreciation when the breakthrough arrives. A butterfly cannot emerge without the cocoon. If you try to break it out too early, you destroy its wings. The struggle inside the cocoon is what gives the butterfly the strength to fly. That is the essence of waiting seasons. They are the cocoon in which God allows you to struggle, not to suffocate you, but to strengthen you. What feels like restriction is actually resistance designed to make you strong enough to soar. Some of you are in a waiting season right now, praying for a door to open, longing for a change to come, wondering why God seems to be holding back. It may look like delay, but it is actually development. It may feel like stagnation, but it is actually spiritual conditioning. You are being trained in patience, trained in faith, trained in endurance, trained in obedience. And though you cannot see it now, one day you will realize that everything you learned in the waiting was the very thing that it equipped you for the promise. Faith grows strongest in uncertainty. It is easy to claim you have faith when the road is clear, when the answers line up, when the resources are in place and the outcome seems guaranteed. But true faith is not born in clarity. It is forged in confusion. It is not strengthened in certainty. It is stretched in uncertainty. When you cannot see the way forward, when you do not know how the bills will be paid, when you cannot predict how the situation will unfold, that is the place where faith takes root and grows into something unshakable. Faith is not the ability to see, it is the conviction to believe even when sight is absent. Uncertainty exposes the fragility of human control. We spend much of our lives trying to plan, organize, and calculate our futures. We think if we prepare enough, if we strategize enough, if we work hard enough, then life will unfold according to our blueprint. But then the unexpected comes. A job ends, a relationship shifts, a diagnosis appears, a door closes. Suddenly, all the control you thought you had slips through your fingers, and you are left in the tension of not knowing what comes next. That is when faith rises, because faith is the bridge that carries you from the known to the unknown, from the seen to the unseen, from human certainty to divine trust. The scriptures say we walk by faith and not by sight. That means that uncertainty is not a mistake in the journey. It is an intentional part of the process. God allows uncertainty because it is the environment where faith can grow. If you knew every detail of your future, you would not need faith. If you could trace every step, you would not need to trust. God withholds certain answers not to frustrate you, but to develop you. He hides tomorrow from you so that you will cling to him today. He allows you to stand at the edge of the unknown so that your faith muscles will grow strong enough to carry you forward. Think of Abraham, called to leave his homeland and go to a place God would show him. He was given no map, no timeline, no details, just a command to go and a promise that God would bless him. Abraham stepped out into uncertainty, and it was in that journey that his faith grew. He became the father of faith, not because he had certainty, but because he had obedience in uncertainty. Every step he took without knowing the outcome was a seed planted in the soil of faith. That seed produced trust, and that trust became the foundation of his relationship with God. Uncertainty also reveals the object of your faith. When everything is uncertain, you learn quickly whether your faith is in your job, your bank account, your relationships, or in God alone. It strips away the illusions and brings you face to face with the truth. Where have you really placed your trust? Faith that grows in uncertainty shifts your confidence from temporary things to eternal things. It anchors you not in the shifting sands of life, but in the unshakable rock of God's promises. The disciples faced uncertainty when they were in the storm with Jesus. The waves rose high, the boat rocked violently, and fear gripped their hearts. To them, it looked like chaos. To Jesus, it was an opportunity to reveal faith. When he calmed the storm, he asked, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" The storm exposed the level of their faith. It showed that uncertainty was not meant to destroy them, but to develop them. The very storm that terrified them was the same storm that taught them the power of trusting the one who was in the boat with them. Uncertainty will stretch you to places you never thought you could endure. It will force you to pray prayers you never thought you would pray. It will teach you dependence on God in ways that comfort never could. When you do not know what tomorrow holds, you learn to lean into the one who holds tomorrow. That is the paradox of uncertainty. It feels like instability, but it produces stability of faith. It feels like weakness, but it generates strength of spirit. It feels like loss, but it cultivates gain and trust. Faith is like a muscle. If it is not used, it becomes weak. If it is not stretched, it does not grow. Uncertainty is the weight that faith lifts. It is the resistance that builds its strength. Every moment of not knowing is an opportunity for your faith to flex and grow stronger. The longer the season of uncertainty, the deeper the growth of faith. Just as muscles are torn in order to rebuild stronger, faith is stretched in order to rise higher. Joseph lived in uncertainty for years, sold into slavery by his brothers, falsely accused in Potiphar's house, forgotten in prison. He had no timeline, no clarity, no certainty about when his situation would change. Yet it was in those years of uncertainty that his faith matured. By the time he stood before Pharaoh, He was not the same young dreamer who once boasted about his visions. He was a man who had learned to trust God in the unseen. That strength allowed him not only to step into leadership, but to forgive the very brothers who betrayed him. His faith did not grow in the palace. It grew in the pit and the prison of uncertainty. Uncertainty humbles you. It strips you of the illusion that you are in control. It teaches you to release the need to know everything and rest in the one who knows all things. It shifts your focus from how will this happen to who is with me in this happening. That humility is the soil in which unshakable faith grows. The proud demand answers, the faithful trust even without them. There is a strange beauty in uncertainty because it keeps you close to God. If you had all the answers, if life unfolded exactly as you planned, you would not seek Him the same way. You would not pray with desperation. You would not listen with attentiveness. You would not cling to His promises with urgency. Uncertainty keeps you on your knees. It keeps you leaning in. It keeps you hungry for His voice. And in that hunger, faith is nourished. When you look back over your life, the seasons that built your faith the most were not the ones where everything was certain. They were the ones where you did not know if you would make it, but you did. The ones where you could not see a way, but God made one. The ones where you thought it was over, but grace carried you through. Those moments became the milestones of your faith. They became the evidence that uncertainty is not your enemy. It is your training ground. It is the very place where faith grows strongest, where trust is deepest, and where dependence on God becomes unshakable. Trust the process when you cannot see the plan. That is one of the hardest disciplines in life because human beings crave clarity. We crave certainty. We crave to know exactly how things will unfold. When we cannot see the full picture, when the path seems hidden, when the details remain unrevealed, our natural instinct is to resist, to panic, or to try to take control. But God rarely gives us the full plan all at once. He asks us instead to trust the process, even when the plan is concealed from our eyes. Because the truth is, if we could see everything ahead of time, faith would no longer be necessary. And without faith, it is impossible to please God. The process is rarely glamorous. It is the grind, the stretching, the in-between season where nothing looks like what was promised. The process is where you are being built in the dark while no one is watching, where God works on your character before He releases your calling, where He shapes your humility before He elevates your platform. And the hardest part of the process is not the work itself, but the mystery of it, the not knowing, the waiting without clarity, the moving forward without a map. But that is the beauty of trust. Trust is not proven when everything is clear. Trust is proven when everything is hidden.